Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Summer 2019. It is day number 2 of the final week of the regular season, and I am back here once again. I'm Atlas, this is Papa Smithy, and we have got some tumultuous LCK to commentate. This is the closest it's ever been up the top in a very long time, if not ever. Unprecedentedly close.
And it's the beginning of the end of getting to the bottom of what's going on in the LCK. The playoff standings, top spot, only bottom spot is set, and yet we have the bottom place team, Jin Air, fighting to be the only team, well, fighting to not be the only team that has gone completely defeated, Atlas. The 0-18 dream or nightmare, depending on what kind of fan you are, glass half full, glass half empty, I guess, gets judged today in our first match. Meanwhile, Griffin have a clear road, and this is a scary thing, because Griffin often make mistakes when the road is really clear. Win both matches against first Jin Air and then Hanwha Life, relegation-bound teams, and they're going to Worlds, and they're going to the Grand Final. So there's so much on the line this week for Griffin, but performing in the clutch, Atlas, it's a weird type of clutch, but it's still a type of clutch this week for Team Griffin.
Yep, that's exactly right. I feel like Griffin are the team that when the road is the clearest, they're the ones that make their own potholes, Pop Smithy. And look, we'll see whether or not they are going to do the same thing this week. We're going to find out here in our first match as to whether or not those potholes start to come up. But it is a weird and wonderful world that Jin Air beats Griffin here today. And of course, if Jin Air does win, there's a chance that Griffin then tie with SKT, and we're going to have to play a tiebreaker match in that instance. A few extra things are going to have to happen, SKT losing the sandbox being one of them.
But whatever happens in Griffin's 2 matches, they are top 5. That is already locked in. There could be a standings thing, like you mentioned, very, very relevant whether you're first, second, third, fourth, or fifth, because of how it affects skipping best of 3s and best of 5s. But theoretically, that is a future consideration. Griffin come in, and they are definitely finalists elect. They are very likely to be in the grand final of the LCK. The first time they had to reverse a FLICKR Freaks to win a semi-final. Last game ever played in the OGN Stadium was that final 1 year ago. They were auto-seeded in, and we try to forget the spring final of this year. Even though you and I were on that casa desk with LS, we try to forget that one. They could definitely be auto-seeded again. Jin Air into Hanwha Life. But the Jin Air side is just as important, because there aren't many sporting franchises that go 0-18 in a double round robin best of 3 season. This is not Champions, where you can go 0-6 and be out. This is best of 3 double round robin. Jin Air do not want that to be one of their statistics.
Nope, you don't want to be famous for being the team that loses. That being said, you know, we have had teams that have bounced back from things like that in sport in the past. Like you've mentioned, I mean, the Shanghai Dragons are the team that we talk about the most when it comes to losing, but then they have since turned things around.
Remember, though, they were in a franchise league, so they went 0-40 and kept their spot. Jin Air can go 0-18 and get relegated. That's, suddenly, there's no happy ending. You're just in Challengers in 2020. So, Jin Air 2020, fly that flag, fly that cloud plane. I haven't been able to tweet at Atlas. I don't even tweet sad plane anymore because
I've forgotten what it looks like, Papa Smithy. I've forgotten.
Is it sad if you lose the 5th time in a row? Probably not. You know, you're used to losing, and that's kind of the worry.
It's like, stop it, they're already dead at that point. You know, it's you got to get your Simpsons quotes out. They do place a lot of awards though. Look at that. That's a stat. We found a stat, a Jin Air stat. We did it. Nice work, stats team. LCK stats team really taking one for the team there, as Griffin have firsts in everywhere else that we've listed. This is a team that's really found themselves, especially in their last match. They obliterated King's Own.
In really, really nice fashion, too, because I think they had understandably been trying to work out what does Doran mean for the team, because whatever you think about this young player, and probably the most notable thing to most was his tears of kind of frustration and nervousness during the series against SKT under all the pressure. He's definitely a very different player to Sword. He's much more of a 4-lane player, and that has affected a lot of the pieces around him, especially Tarzan, who I thought has been kind of waning in terms of how he's been influencing early games for a lot of summer, and yet I thought he looked super on point. He was a monster in this series and started to really jive with the team around him. It's a team that could go a long way, and yet right now they do have Jin Air Greenwings as their remaining opposition.
Yep, Jin Air have won 4 games out of their 17 matches thus far.
How many matches, Atlas?
It's just...
No matches.
Yeah, no matches have been won. But they have won 4 games. They've theoretically won enough games to win 2 matches.
Now, they've also won at least 1 game in 2 of their last 3.
Exactly.
So, recently, things have been slightly less awful, as Sieze was able to pull off this Eve kill onto Prey.
Yeah, it was actually pretty sweet how Jin Air was able to play out some of the moments in this game. I mean, KT were doing some pretty KT things, and you should expect that Griffin will be a very different opposition to that of KT Rolster in this particular season. 2018 would have been a different story, but that is something that we try not to talk about too much. Malrung versus Tarzan is going to be our matchup, and this is going to be an interesting one because Malrung's making his way back. You mentioned that it was Sieze playing in their last series, and they had a bit of a play around with the junglers. Malrung is going to be back for game number 1, as you can see.
They did the 4-man swapsies, I think.
They did certainly do some musical chairs.
One of the games there. And Malrung and Tarzan are so different. Malrung, I think LS always calls that kind of the gambler, right? He always likes to take those very solo queue level 2S ganks. Meanwhile, Tarzan tries to control the pace of the game. So when you have very different styles of jungle, it's always interesting to see who bends to whose will, how much respect and pick and ban is shown for Malrung's aggressive champion pool.
Yep, we'll see whether he can find things here in this early game. A time where Tarzan has been not necessarily as powerful in the past. So it is theoretically a place where Malrung can really try and flex his muscles here against this Griffin squad. But the problem is that Tarzan has turned that around. And this is starting to look like the Griffin that we have been wanting to see, that we've been wanting to develop, moving into the later stages of the season. They've done this during regular seasons in the past, but when it comes down to it, that's when the Griffin has fallen out of the sky.
But can we ever write Griffin's story during the piece? Because it feels like after the fact we look back and it makes sense, and yet in the timeline, you always think you know where it's going, and then it just veers off course. So we don't know, Atlas. We can't make full information. I agree with you. If you look back and re-edit the last 2 months as, well, we have a limit with Sword as to how far we can go. Let's bring in Doran and try to work him out. We've got some kinks to work out. Yes, that all tracks. And the performance against Kingzone seemed like it was raising their ceiling. But does that mean they go on to win the big one? Or even auto-qualify for Worlds by winning both matches, both of which are very winnable against Jin Air and Humble Life? That's the part where, because Griffin has no runs on the board in that area, we're still going to have to learn as a big cheer comes around Lowell Park. But Jin Air Greenwings is trying to stave off the specter of the 018 season.
Yep, going to be their final game here before that promotion tournament is going to be upon us. That is going to take some time, though. We've still got playoffs and a Worlds Gauntlet, so Jin Air with some time to prepare themselves. That being said, they would love to go out after taking down Griffin. Summer is the time for the Jin Air Greenwings to be the Griffin Killers.
That would be a story and a half, and also set off so many flares in a season that has taken so many right turns. Here we are, 3 match days away, and we know so little. And we've been studying Atlas, we've been staring.
Oh, hell yeah,
and yet
we have.
We still don't know things. People keep asking me who's good, and I'm like, I don't know. I think Griffin, I think SKT, but I could be wrong on both. Jin Air Greenwings, we know they're not so good, and yet 018 does feel harsh on a team that I think was better in summer than spring by a long way. They haven't been as embarrassed as some games where 10 minutes in you're like, well, this one's already well over. That has been much rarer in summer, and yet around them teams have gotten better. Just look at Dumb1 Gaming as an example, and thus very few game wins to show for the side of Jin Air.
And I think that it comes back to that question of, are we all terrible or are we all amazing? And I think we're moving towards amazing, much like that Renekton artwork. That is incredible.
Really nicely done.
Did they do that today?
I'd like to hope so.
Yeah.
Yes. Coach Han, no tie today.
No, I actually really like this look that he has going on, the collarless shirt situation.
Kind of looks like a preacher a little bit, though.
Yep.
No, what do you preach to Jin Air Greenwings players today?
Win. That's what you preach. That's all you preach.
That's very results oriented.
Yeah.
Have you considered winning? Oh, I'd never heard of that.
Or you take the other tag and just say, hey guys, just go out there and have a great time.
Leave it all on the Rift.
Yeah, and you've got this case of participation medals in the back ready to dole out after the match.
On the upside, they will be playing on the Lol Park stage again. Yep. Sadly for them, in relegations.
That being said, I mean, Challenger isn't what it once was. So, likely that we will be seeing Jin Air once again, but crazier things have happened, and they've also been about as bad as you can possibly be. So we'll see how it goes. Griffin are going to start off on the blue side here as Skana and Renekton are going to be banned. We have an artist now in the audience that is quite upset about the lack of Crocodile.
Really?
Yeah, I know. So sad.
Why is Renekton being banned? Really wants to pick that first pick. Aatrox, get it in there.
I actually really respect this because they've understood that Jin Air Greenwings pretty good in the early game. Kill early game champion.
Well,
makes some sense.
It's one way to approach, and if you're evaluating purely from the Griffin standpoint, and even if you're evaluating purely from the LCK power level standpoint, you know, whether you're in there as a Griffin fan or trying to work out where Korea lands in terms of the global landscape, you probably want to see Griffin absolutely flex on Jin Air, right? You kind of want to see if Jin Air R1 versus the quintessential 10, you are looking for Griffin to not actually be in the weeds in a really close series here, because we're still trying to work out what playoffs best of fives look like. And if Griffin find it very difficult to beat Jin Air, I feel like we'll be no closer to working it out.
Nope. Yumi is going to get through though. Lehends' Yumi is now on the Rift.
Nameplate here, very important.
Yeah. Now I'm super happy that Jin Air decided to go with the Silas ban.
And this is a movement away from Jin Air's. Remember, Jin Air on blue side have been first picking Varus and trying to get very strong lanes for Root and Kellen.
Yeah.
Especially against Kingzone, it was very notable, where they didn't want to give Deft and Tucson any tools to dominate lane. And now, theoretically, Lucian Yumi could be easily locked in on the Griffin side. It's also a pick for Root. Is there any consideration in trying to find your own Lucian Nautilus lane?
Could be. The Volibear's being considered at the moment because, of course, now possibility that you can go towards the Kalista, not exactly a champion that you're pairing with Yumi all that often.
I wonder how Root's Draven is as a side point here.
Ooh.
Hasn't played that so far.
Bears and Axes on the bottom side. That seems all right, as Doran might be trying his hand at the Jace. However, we must remember that Chovy managed to be 40 CS ahead of the clock at 20 minutes on the Jace mid lane. The problem I see here is Jin Air Greenwings decided to lock in the Volibear when Ezreal was available and would have been a great pick against and with the Yumi. So denying that from Griffin could have been a good idea. That being said, they don't, and Viper snaps it up very happily. And so now we've got flex pick solo lane and a very strong bottom lane duo for Griffin. Draft certainly working out for them so far, which is why you can see a pretty bemused face on Grace right there.
And I'll be honest, I haven't been a big fan of Lucian Yumi, Ezreal Yumi as a standard, as there's going to be the Yasuo potentially for bot lane.
Yeah.
Locked in here. This could definitely be the double brawler bot lane. I realize that's not the TFT categorization.
The fling and slash.
I mean?
It's the old fling and slash. I love it.
It seems like an evolution of the Gragas Yasuo, a little bit less reliable when flash is down, because you don't have the ranged.
That's true, but more reliable when you do have flash.
Exactly. So, single target Yasuo Ultimate's bot lane coming up, potentially going to be a bit of temperature onto Griffin. But the point I wanted to get to was that there's Ezreal Yumi from other teams, and there's Yumi lanes with Griffin who really know how to push the limit. They've also evolved to be a team that can play Tahm Kench Ezreal in sort of aggressive fashion we see from Deft and Tucson. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on this lane, even though the all-in options and the potential for a vertical jungle could actually set up the Yasuo and Volibear very well.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you actually alluded to that as well, Papa, because I was looking at the Ezreal Yumi lane purely because it's Viper and Lehends. Viper's Ezreal games of late have been some of the best that we've ever seen as far as domination levels are concerned, and that is saying a gigantic amount here in the LCK, especially for such a new player. So we'll see whether he's going to be able to stay on that tack or whether the potential Yasuo Volibear lane is going to be good enough.
You notice that with no jungler selected, they're like, wait, let's still ban the Gragas. Say, Team Griffin. And don't hate the decision. Really going to be the secondary ban here. I think Griffin just want to keep Jin Air honest, but the moment the Yasuo was locked in, things got a little bit trickier to follow. Looking for probably Malrang's jungle pick to be coming in. Xinjiao could be considered here.
Plenty of options. See what route is actually going to go with here, and I would like something like the Xin. Something a little bit more early game focused, and something with a knockup. And that'll do it. Sejuani, not exactly early game focused, but Arctic Assault, that'll set it. And
Sejuani.
You've also activated your Glacial Box.
And look, Sejuani has the Gragas-esque ability to Q-flash in and set up a Yasuo ultimate, but it's a sort of spot where Silas is banned here, but Trundle, for example, could be picked up in this spot. That would actually be a very notable Trundle pick. Hasn't been played by Tarzan since he went 12-0 in summer season last year, so still career undefeated. On the Trundle. Usually it's Gragas or Silas, though, so actually, from a draft perspective, while it doesn't give Malrang his usual ability to kill people, it is still going to be a spot where the Sejuani is pretty protected outside of that Trundle pick.
Well, Kenny going to be locked in here, heading into the hands of Doran, which means, once again, we're going to have Chovy's Jace into the mid lane. Going to be his coverage choice, of course, still don't really know where anything is going, and Tarzan is going to go back to his Olaf to try and brawl in this early game, having known now that the Sejuani exists.
And he's trying to buff it up to 30% season win rate from the 27.6 that is currently at. Work to be done from the Olaf.
His win rate's not too bad. He's 4-1 currently on the champion, so Tarzan is not the problem when it comes to the win rate of Olaf in the LCK.
And this is what we want to see. We want to see the Olaf from Griffin, because you look at this draft now and you're like, this is a tempo draft that wants to play aggressively. This is the sort of draft that I think fit Griffin really well based on their King Zone performance. They're going to be trying to power up early and really slam down Jin Air in the early game, but we're closing out with a TaLia here, so the roaming plays to perhaps back up the Sejuani going to be there from Grace.
Yeah, I like it. I really like that the Yasuo Volibear is going to be their answer. It shows that Jin Air knew what they were doing when it came to the champions that they banned in the first round. Deliberate drafting out of this Jin Air squad, and they knew what Griffin were going to pick up. On the other side of the coin, though, you've got Griffin picking up very strong options in their solo lanes, arguably one of the best bottom lanes for Griffin in the LCK at the moment, and a very high-tempo jungler for the early game.
Oh, it could definitely be 3 winning lanes and Olaf. So, right here, it is going to be situational power and like areas where, yes, Jin Air have some tools you can use against certain parts of Griffin, but on paper, it's Kennen into Aatrox, it's Jace mid lane into TaLia early, which is going to be a little bit more even, and then Ezreal is going to obviously have a range advantage over Yasuo and have largely priority here, so it could very easily flow into being 3 priority lanes. Then Olaf and a friend is getting into your jungle, and Sejuani's a bit sad. I think you got to start level 2 considerations here. If you are the Sejuani, it's hard to level 2. You kind of need QE in order to pull something off, and you don't even get W in that sort of arena. But Jin Air, they've got some tools, but actually applying them to this Griffin team, best of luck.
Yep, we'll see whether they can do it. Of course, a lot of nuance to this one, but this is the last chance for Jin Air. Let's see how they do game 1. The Jin Air faithful hold on to their cheers for as long as possible, knowing that this may be one of the last times that they'll be able to do it. Back for the promotion tournament, but maybe then never seen again.
Now,
who knows?
Do you want to see something new?
Yes.
Atlas, look to the top of the screen, and you will notice there is no press the attack from Doran. He is going to go even more mid-game with the ability power getting top. Theory here is, it could still, of course, go on here, but you get so much diminishing returns not having the press the attack to abuse. Almost always we see Gunblade build, potentially Protobelt if you want to go super hard and not even bothering to lane. Griffin have obnoxious mid-game siege and also the ability to play so far forward with many people to back up Olaf on the invade. This feels like the sort of Griffin comp where if you play it right, the game's over in 21 to 24 minutes. Not always been their playbook, but increasingly how they were looking like, where they really comped well around Tarzan and followed his lead so well in that series against King Zone most recently.
Yep, Chovy 1-0 on the Jace, but that was one hell of a Jace win. If you look back to it, that was in their Gen G series, and he demolished Fly to the point where he had to be subbed out. And they put in a Heroes of the Storm player. So, look, just pretty ridiculous stuff from Chovy as far as his performance, and you can see Grace giving him a lot of respect. We actually, okay, in goes Callan. Lehends is going to be discovered, but he's not even going to throw down the you and me.
Do you know what he did throw down? He threw down Flash. He has Flash this game as his summoner spell, which we see very, very rarely. Yeah. This is showing respect to the all-in that can potentially come in onto the Ezreal and the Yuumi.
And the Majestic Roar as well, and its incredible power.
Not often do you need the extra escape, but when Yasuo basically instantly blows you up at any point because you've got no health as Yuumi, gonna go for that respect here. Volibear has the interrupt on the you and me. They have a lot of different ways to knock up. Safety first choice from a Yuumi. Rare, but it is on full display.
The thing that I really like about it is it's not necessarily safety first when it comes to how you play now that he's chosen a safer set of summoner spells. You get to now play hyper aggressively as he's able to trace a little bit of a circle around the bear there, identifying his target. But that's what I love about it. It's sort of safety in order to be overly aggressive, much is Lehends' style. And
Lehends has been the kind of world leader on Yuumi play, on how to innovate. From very, very early before it saw pro play, he was the one that everyone was looking to when it came to pro builds and things like that. And I like that theory, Atlas, and the fact that you verbalize it, because it's a, how do I want to play this lane? How do I rune to get there? If I want to be up there auto-attacking, I actually need Flash, especially post-6, so that's the decision I'll make.
Yep. And I love that we've got both examples of taking a safer approach in what you do with it, because Grace was also hovering, you know, would have been thinking about Electrocute in this lane, but has decided to instead go with Phase Rush, which is going to give him a bit more safety, as well as the heal, instead of an Ignite, something like that. So he's taking the safe route, but that is because he's against Chovy on his Jace, and that is going to be a more difficult lane, and therefore needs to play defensively, utilizing defensive summoners. Not the same sort of case here as to why Lehends has chosen the same summoner spells.
Right now, one Scuttle was picked up, which you're going to be pretty happy about if you're the Sejuani. There was no guarantee that you would get a Scuttle this game. So far, we're waiting to see Tarzan's relentless aggression fully come to bear. What the first objective is, kind of forward of just clearing his own jungle here for the Olaf. Warrior Olaf, of course, will be the way we see here.
Yep, Conqueror Olaf as well, so not going to have the Predator or anything like that, so doesn't need to get boots on his first back in order to have a Keystone, and can build more power in order to fight Malrung even earlier this game. He's going to move up towards the top side. Vision available here for Linderung, and a wave that Doran's trying to stack, hasn't quite made it underneath the turret just yet.
No sweeper for Olaf, so not able to sweep this brush. Thought maybe the sweeper pickup would have come in that area, but I guess just wants to put down some wards for top lane as Grace takes a fun trade in mid.
Yeah, in inverted commas. About as inverted as they can possibly be. That being said, able to offer a fair bit of damage back, actually evening things out with Chovy there, but Chovy just trying to throw his weight around, as you would imagine. Down comes Malrung, and Grace is here as well. Seismic Shove, if the placement is good, it's going to be very good, as Viper's thrown back so many times. The you and me is going to save Lehends, who jumps out of the Ezreal because he's already dead. Root taking so much damage. The auto is going to follow him. A 1-for-1 is absolutely not what Jin Air wanted, especially when Viper has teleport.
Really big investment coming out of Jin Air. 4 people parked bot lane for a 1-for-1. Lehends doesn't even have to use the flash that he picked up in that particular fight, but that means he gets to walk up again and again as if it never happened, just like the TP back from Viper.
Yep, Viper also able to pick up his Sheen. A cheeky little fairy charm there as well. Back timing actually not too bad here.
So what you're saying
for the Ezreal,
he got the accelerated back timer he needed.
Yep.
On this turret. It's a big investment, and it was always on the card when you have roaming mid laner, exhaust, ignite bot lane, and also Sejuani having a lot of synergy. Auto follows. Nicely done.
I actually think that that might have been a slight mistake there from Root. I think he was trying to get out the back. And unfortunately, based on Lehends' movement, he put the Yasuo in the worst position possible. Just a little bit unlucky there for Root. But I haven't seen his Yasuo just yet, I don't believe. Allow me to double check. He's played a lot of awesome dudes towards the bottom side of the map, but no Yasuo just yet.
Turns out when you have no match wins, you just try a lot of stuff and you see what sticks.
Yeah.
You look over to G2. They are definitely known as a team that love to play the Gragas Yasuo, and I think Volibear Yasuo is definitely not cut from the same cloth as much as the innate synergy that Gragas Yasuo bot lane provides.
For us, it was the Afrika Freaks that were the Yasuo team. In fact, whether or not it was aiming or Kramer back in the day.
What about Viper?
Yeah, Viper as well. Felt like the FLICKR Freaks, the fact that they did it with multiple different AD carries was certainly a reason why they needed to be respected for that particular pick. It was even one of Deft's. Deft, of course, was a Victor player, but otherwise decided that he didn't really like them too much. But Yasuo did fit his wheelhouse just a little bit.
Double Relic's been nerfed a lot of times, but, you know, Root doesn't have to upgrade into the Targons anytime soon. Targon's already done from Kellen, so it's just a little bit of incremental sustain to try to get through a high harassed laning phase, as all Yuumi laning phases represent.
Yep, also allows you to clear faster, which I think is definitely beneficial for this particular lane, as they don't want to stick around and take Ezreal poke for too long. Root collecting that flow as much as he can, that is going to be helpful, but not helpful enough, as you can see. Doran taking an awful trade topside.
And not going press the attack, and probably not going on hit, does mean we're expecting him to fall away in the 1v1 as the lane goes on.
Yep.
Out of vision so far is the Taliyah, but the bot lane focus here was always pretty transparent.
Yep, well, Root is going to get stunned up. Viper doing a lot of damage. Kellen makes his way down. Majestic Roar just to try and stop the aggression, but that is not why you pick the Volley Bear. He's not a defensive champion. And Jin Air getting schooled in the 2v2. Can Malrung actually help is the question. As, yeah, we got a bit of an all-in here as, gets out of the Infernal Chains, but keeps him in the Slicing Maelstrom as Linderung with the World Ender is doing a lot of work, but he's ran out of buttons, and Doran's able to turn that one around. An all-in from both of them immediately after the teleport, though, so probably a bit of an advantage there for Linderung.
Protobelt timing versus Merc Tread timing, and yet no real mortal damage going to be able to be dealt to Linderung. I wonder if Morellonomicon has just rushed second here just to try to attack the Aatrox in lane.
I thought you were going to say attack LS's mental, but I'd like it a lot. Absolutely. Certainly is the way that you deal with it. The on-hit variety could theoretically go for the Executioner's Calling at that particular back timing, but
I'm in two minds though, Atlas, because you say, okay, yep, it's really good against Aatrox. Yep, it's really good against the Summoner Spell heal from Taliyah.
And Volley Bear's passive, yeah.
But at the end of the day, Volley Bear passive on a squishy champion, not as relevant. The Aatrox going to be much more kind of expensive build to fully get online. There's also an argument to just stack a lot of ability power and blow them up when you're supposed to blow them up at 20 minutes rather than having a build that makes a lot of sense at 30 to 35. So yes, it probably will be flat 10, I believe, in Morellonomicon, but I don't mind kind of considering not going healing reduction this game.
Yeah, actually wouldn't mind rushing towards Zhonya's Hourglass as well. I think that that's going to give you equal value against the composition. The other way of thinking about it is, what does Griffin's comp want to do? It wants to poke you out with Doran in a side lane who teleports in for a flank when everyone's low enough to slice a Maelstrom to kill everyone. At what point in that scenario does Linderung ever get to utilize his healing? About 0% of the time.
And it comes back to the simple points. Chovy's being chased by lots of people.
Yep, we've got a cleanse. We also have a flash, but he uses the flash relatively late, taking a lot of damage. Acceleration gate, not enough. The ignite is in there, and Kellen bites the Jace to death. This is going to be a very different Jace game for Chovy today.
I actually think that Chovy played that perfectly when he was trying to hold on to his flash, trying to get over the wall after the last breath was used, and yet still dies. And Jin is going to use the time to get an unanswerable Rift Herald. Too many bad guys there, and Olaf is going to use his time to try to push the wave in. Not much else he can do.
Nope. Puts the wave in an interesting scenario as well, trying to get out with his life. So as Doran makes his way back topside, he's going to have to deal with 3 members pushing, in theory. And this is fantastic for Jin Air because their comp doesn't siege. But if they can get to a turret without anyone there, they kill it really, really quickly. As immediately the Rift Herald is thrown down, and that's exactly the train of thought that Jin Air are going to go for.
But Tarzan and Doran are both here, so this will not be a turret claim at all. They're not going to be able to threaten anything anymore. Yasuo ult still on cooldown, obviously not a lot of ult. Fine, here's an all-in!
There goes Doran, a lot of damage now. That Slicing Maelstrom didn't even have the passive there as Tarzan's been exhausted, but it doesn't even matter. The undertows are landing. Malrung having to flash, but Tarzan's got that button as well. The slows are infinite, and Doran even lands the Q. 3 kills, they'll trade that one for that pretty lackluster Rift Herald.
LCK meet LPL Olaf getting in there with the Warrior enchant, having no mundos about the enemy.
Oh my god, Chovy just used a seismic shove as gap close.
Yes, he did.
What the hell was that? He walked into it like it was a trampoline.
Griffin are pretty good.
That's creative. That's creative. I like that one. As Linderung's going to throw down the ult. Viper's going to flash, though, as Grace is going to take the wall to get himself in there. The final chapter comes down, though. The snare is in. Seismic Shove's great, though. Viper, second time you've been hit by that. Second time you're going to die this game. Griffin still have a lead, but Jin Air do manage to find something bottom side.
And that's the important point. That was a pretty early flash from Viper, even though Seismic Shove wasn't used. Let's watch Chovy's death in now. When do you flash is a fun query. Remember, there's so many different cooldowns that tie you up that even with flash and cleanse, you got to try to choose the right moment. I think Chovy chose exactly the correct moment and still died. That's just the reality sometimes. This is understanding power levels. Tarzan is Warrior, Conqueror, Olaf, and Doran has everything up. So it doesn't matter if he gets exhausted, he's still really, I believe you said it yesterday, PO'd.
Yeah. Yeah, he's, look, I don't know whether he's necessarily PO'd or whether he just had a lot of weak picks this morning. You know, wants to utilize that extra energy.
So why did Viper flash? Let's watch.
Maybe predicting a flash from Linderung to get the
It might have also
spot.
been that the Infernal Chains hit him. I couldn't tell because the flash is quite early, but his death was assured.
Yeah, it was the old third stack of the Q as well, which would have been a lot of damage.
I want to see the replay of the mid lane play to confirm that he purposefully went into a Seismic Shove.
Oh, it's so good, right? I don't know whether he purposely did it, or maybe he was just like, oh, well, I'll take this.
When I looked, he had been seismically shoved, so
yeah.
I want to believe that he used it as a free taxi to the
yeah. Straight up a diving board.
Otherwise, you're like the most glass Hufflecaster of all time.
I mean, I think I've already got my name down for that particular title. That being said, it looked like it, and he won the trade, so who can argue? Okay, Linderung and Doran still fighting as once again, I've seen this play before. It worked out pretty well for Doran then. He's going to get pulled back by the Infernal Chains, and Linderung going to utilize that as a disengage, but I don't know whether it's going to be enough. Q not going to land. I believe W was charged, but now we've got even more plates, and Doran's playing this like he is on hit cannon as far as the amount of lane control he has right now.
And it's the early phase where actually AP Cannon's still pretty strong against Aatrox. Aatrox stabilizes after a couple of items, but for now at least, Doran does get to be pretty obnoxious. Don't see if he got the third plate. He did not. 2 plates in top. 4 in bot lane. Jin Air actually only claimed 1 out of 3. That's a failing grade.
Yeah, we actually, that's the thing that we didn't get to talk about because the flash slicing Maelstrom came out of Doran up towards the top side. What happened was they weren't actually able to be there while Shelly was knocking down the turret. So
what you're saying is they got 3 kills and denied a kill's worth of plays.
Yes.
That's a trade in a positive direction for Griffin.
Things worked well for Griffin, as it turned out, in that scenario. Chovy sacrificed himself for a worthy cause, I think, is what we need to follow here, as Jin Air thinking about their second Mountain Drake. And this could start getting fantastic for Jin Air, or start meaning absolutely nothing, given what Griffin can potentially do with the lane state.
But we should also reverse the scenario on Griffin and think back to some of their attempts this season to play mid-game. I'm mostly thinking of their Talon games in Rift Rivals, also in the LCK, where they seem to fundamentally not understand how to close out games with a roaming assassin like Talon. And they've gone for the Olaf here, which they have won with. This is a bit more easy to execute in terms of closing games. So they've got someone like a Cannon who can initiate as AP Cannon, but Griffin aren't always good at fighting when they're strong. And that's something that's going to need to be judged here because they should be sieging, and their siege is so oppressive compared to Jin Air's sick no wave clear.
Yeah, and actually, I'm glad that you brought up the siege factor because I think Griffin are better at that particular playstyle. They're good when they're able to like all sit together, and that's what they're supposed to do. Especially if they can sit in a lane so that it's not about, you know, Chovy missing out on side lane farm because he does really like red dots. He sees them red dots on the screen, he's over there. That's why the Talon play doesn't necessarily work because Talon is largely about ignoring red dots so you can kill the champions.
And while I think Chovy hasn't been anywhere near the superstar he was in spring, his laning phase is still unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like he's a great farmer and a great person at opening up CS leads in good matchups. So he deserves compliments for that, even if the rest of his game has not quite been spring tier.
Yeah, I feel like Chovy is the perfect example of mechanics and not necessarily, you know, the rest of the package that you might say that
Tarzan
Tarzan
is.
You
know?
He is incredibly young. And I mean, that's why CV Max picked him up. He picked him up because he was such an incredible mechanical talent in solo queue, and he said, well, I can teach him the rest.
Yeah,
he's not quite there yet, but I mean, for, you know, 3rd season in the LCK, it ain't too bad.
It was a Casio one trick.
Yeah.
Famously, it was Chovy, and they were able to read the right things out there. In case you guys are wondering, when it comes to one tricks, maybe we'll have to hold them when it's Marung and Kellen edging very aggressively towards mid, is that right now, Tarzan is rank 1, Viper rank 2, Tarzan rank 3, but there is a
did
Jax...
Viper get to rank 2?
He did.
Nice.
There's a Jax 1 trick at rank 4. And that's the sort of player, as a top laner,
reminds me of a potential Doran.
Exactly.
As Tarzan easily says thanks to the leash on the Linderong now.
He's a really big leash. He has the Black Cleaver done already, so yeah. He is very, very strong. Jin Air actually have a very frustrating 2 Drakes. They have 2 Mountains on a team that literally cannot siege. Yeah. So they kind of need to kill Barons or burn more Drakes to make it worth something.
The thing you can say about having the Mountain Drakes is that if they do manage to make a good rotation, they can very quickly get rid of Drakes. As Doran gets the stun, Grace in trouble. His tower in even more so. I feel like Doran needs to angrily breathe on that thing, and it's going to fall down.
It's nice to see that I feel like Korea has had a really high translation of one tricks into pro players, and that's probably the one thing North America has struggled with the most, and maybe that's a reality of the streaming culture.
Yep.
But,
I mean, Showmaker is basically our best mid laner, and he was a Katarina one trick.
Yukal?
Yeah, true. Talia, yeah.
So, it's just abnormally high, I think, in Korea. I mean, you could also talk about player base and other factors, but...
And also, I think Koreans do look at exactly the way to win most efficiently more than other regions. I think that it's less about playing for fun and it's more about playing to win here in Korea when it comes to solo.
And it's also that, for some reason, competitive success or attempting competitive, which is not necessarily laden with money when you're coming on as a rookie, is still seen as more attractive than streaming, which also is perhaps a disconnect between the two. But that's kind of more just getting into the weeds there. But I find it very interesting because we definitely have had... We had a Poppy one trick at the top of solo queue for most of last year.
I mean, Vizichachi's doing that in
well, yeah.
Europe
He's
as well.
smurfing over there as well. But we have had a lot of one tricks actually make the next step, which is always cool to talk about.
Yeah.
And we have cleared the famous bronze team.
Now that's Viper. Viper is our winning teamer.
Yeah, but he told me never playing it again. He said it publicly as well.
I hope that's the case. He did play it more than once.
It was pretty good, really.
Yeah, it worked. You can understand what Teemo does in a competitive setting. I was always, you know, an advocate for blind being strong in a lane where the damage comes from a ranged auto attacker. Seems good.
So Griffin, talk to us about the next step. Now there's suddenly a Drake you definitely really want in the Infernal.
That's one you don't want to give up.
Imagine the contest here will be a little bit less half-hearted, and they're getting in early because you don't want to be face-checking any flash knock-ups in a Yasuo. Turret will go down.
That's that breath that we were talking about before.
Game is definitely fully in the hands of Griffin. Even though Jin Air have a comp that can't siege and can only fight, this is also the time when Griffin is oh so powerful, Atlas. So it's going to have to be a catch, I think, to actually make the Pixie siege Jin Air have work.
Jin Air do have a lot of engage, so if they do make the right call as to when to go aggressive, they can go aggressive. But however, the problem is they're behind, and so maybe they just go in and die.
They're behind, and their champions don't do more damage than their counterparts at this point in the game, so it gets really hard, Atlas.
Well, that's 2 people hit by the undertow, and there's the Olaf damage. My God, true shot barrage, great splashed into it. Doran gets in there, Root is able to knock him up, gets the flow back, but it doesn't matter. Linderong has the World Ender now standing behind the wall, and that is where you belong, my friend. You cannot go back into this fight, and Griffin will take their first Drake of the game, and coincidentally, that's an Infernal. Griffin are all over this game.
Exactly, Pot Kettle Black, had him exactly where we wanted him. All of those adages fall exactly in. Griffin is at a huge point of power in this comp that is so mid-game focused. But unlike SKT's mid-game focus comp yesterday, a lot of different damage dealers. As Tarzan walks up, and this is the LPL Olaf that we don't respect in Korea, that has all of the items, says thank you very much. And Doran, I don't think there's any tears apart from tears of joy these days. They're in sync now, Griffin, and they are looking like a fearsome team.
They have inducted Doran into the hive mind, and he is excelling under their tutelage. That is exactly what is happening. This man is looking possessed on the Kleptomancy cannon. Incredible stuff. Griffin now probably want to look towards something like a Baron to move themselves further ahead in this game. They have rolled super high when it comes to Drakes. That is, in fact, probably the best possible scenario for Griffin in this situation.
I know, it's so funny.
You cannot get better than how the Drakes have rolled this
Exactly. The two mountains that Jin Air can't use.
Literally do nothing.
Into the Infernals that Griffin can use so well.
Yep. All right. Well, sometimes things just work out.
What's Mountain Drake? Is negative name. Does LS have a nickname for Mountain Drake when it's not good?
I mean, LS really likes
I know he has
Mountain
like his
Drake.
Clown Drake and then like his Crown Drake. Is that like a molding Drake for a bad Mountain Drake or something?
Yeah. What's a bad mountain?
Oh, what is a bad mountain?
I don't really know.
A hill?
A volcano ain't a bad mountain.
No, that's true. It's a Drake.
Oh no, they've got Gully Drakes. They've picked up the Gully Drakes, Papa Smithy. No, the opposite mountain.
I'm having a feeling that the chat might have responded to the molding Drake idea. Because
What does molding mean?
It's when you're mad and molding. I had to ask people to find that out. It's a new Twitch chat meme. You're not hip with the kids.
Sorry, I'm not hip with the kids.
I want you to get in there and be like, hello, fellow Twitch chatters, after this break. It came from XQC, former Overwatch League pro player, to continue our Shanghai Dragons train of thought.
There we go. Always able to bring it back. The segueist.
We're always trying to segue further and further. As Jin Air, they don't want to segue Atlas, because the segue from LCK is CK. And they don't want to go there. They're trying to avoid that.
That's the Jin Air problem at this point in time. As Griffin trying to segue themselves into the LCK final once again. No strangers to doing that. Their regular season performances have been exceptional. They've been first place or tied for first place every single time and do not want to deviate from that path.
They didn't look like they'd be there 3 weeks ago.
Hell no.
This team has really only gotten it together, and if you want to be glass half full, which actually this time I tend to kind of fully subscribe to, it was the kinks of bringing in a top lane carry to replace an initiating top laner, and the build-up time to respond to the fact that they weren't winning with the previous lineup and they needed to find a new strategy. And I feel like they're definitely knocking on the door of being a complete team with Doran, but obviously in high-pressure scenarios, we're going to have a new kind of Griffin to evaluate come playoffs.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I think that it's even more important for Griffin specifically. Of course, bringing in a new player is hard for any team. That's why we've seen it move away from subbing mid-series in the LCK so much. I mean, Afrika Freaks looks so much better now that they're not running 15 players in different positions.
Jin Air's the only team that's been pretty
wholesale. Gen G as well as the other team that has been switching.
I imagine the most sub team, I put in the most substitutions this year apart from Jin Air, probably would have been Afrika in spring, but I think over the whole year, probably Hanwha Life. And they also have largely settled on set rosters, or if they do change, it's for a match day. Like sometimes Tao's playing, and he's not often swapped out for So1 halfway through.
Yeah, and So1 has been performing a little bit better. I think that's why. I think So1 really finding himself in the Hanwha roster is why they were able to find so many victories. Aurelia looking fantastic.
All right, Griffin, this is around the time where your comp doesn't really get relatively stronger than it is now, so this is kind of the kill the game time for Griffin.
Now,
a Baron here is just the hardest thing for Jin Air to ever hope to deal with. Jace, Ezreal with all of their core items done, and Baron.
But on the other side, if I was to be cup half full, as I generally am, Root does have his 2 items. Sure. We've got a couple picked up from Grace as well, Morellonomicon being one of them. Take that as you will.
Who is he killing, though? Because QSS and Cleanse is there for Chovy and Viper to get out of the Wombo.
I mean, my cup isn't that half full, but there are certainly some timings that would be notable in other games.
Well, Griffin seem to want Infernal over Baron for now, and that seems surprising because if you look at the minimap, they're not playing towards the million control wards they put around Baron.
Yeah, if this was Sandbox, you could imagine that Griffin would be positioned around Baron. They'd wait to see Jin Air clearing vision around this Infernal Drake, and then they would kill the Baron and win the game. That is not the Griffin way. They don't want to give anything up, as Doran might be giving up his life right now. Positioning not fantastic, but looking to turn it around. Doesn't find the Q, though. Has to go golden. Dodges the ultimate with it, though, as the final chapter is red. And the Volley Bear is going to bite the dust. And that is an example, ladies and gentlemen, of a wallet being just too damn heavy. Grace also going to go down. It was a catch from Jin Air, but they were too damn far behind.
And Tarzan just easily 1v1'd Root with both summoners up on the side as well. Easy kill there for the Olaf. He's way stronger than the enemy Yasuo.
He's way stronger than anyone on Jin Air by a large
It
margin.
turns out, if you have this much power, and it wasn't unleashed power, they knew how strong they were. These were teams that were a bit big jam. They knew exactly how good they were. They're willing to tell everyone, you run at the area you don't have vision, and you kill them there, and then it's the safest Baron you've ever seen.
Yep, and Tarzan is going to smite that Baron away. Looked a little bit low, but that was just buffing his attack speed.
Exactly.
That's what he
More
wanted.
deeps, baby.
Yep. That's called min-maxing, guys. And we're going to watch Doran get caught in inverted commas.
He could have flashed out at any point, but I think he just said, nope, let's use this initiation. If you notice, it's actually a flash over by Lehends to try to get the final chapter going, and then everyone's got a lot of damage. What is missed in all of this on the minimap? The solo kill by Tarzan.
Yep, he's off to the side now, running towards the Baron as Viper missed maybe one Mystic shot in that whole array of situation, and we are going to see this. That's with an exhaust.
Yeah, and it looks like Yasuo had a chance, but he didn't.
No. He had his Infinity Edge, though. Item spikes.
The more damage he did to Yasuo, A, Yasuo got annoyed. Sorry, Olaf got annoyed. B, his Conqueror started proccing, and he got more attack speed.
Yeah, and then more annoyed, I guess. That's a lot of fury coming out of this Viking, who is just rampaging through this Jin Air roster. It is not close in any stretch of the imagination.
I've never seen an Olaf exhausted twice.
Okay, he's going to flash. Doesn't have to use, doesn't have heal, so couldn't use that, but he's able to flash away to relative safety. Safety is a weird word to be talking about, though, as Callan's going to flash in. They look for Viper, who QSSs the knockup from the ultimate. He's taken so much CC, but still survives. Linderung is going to be falling down. Meanwhile, the Olaf eats everyone in the backline, and Doran is able to get out of there as well. All right, this is well and truly over. That situation was desperation from the volley bear, and now Griffin will break open the base and maybe, just maybe, win the game right now.
This one is for the record books. Griffin have been able to do exactly what you need to do to play a draft like this. Don't try this at home. If you're not ready to actually flex your muscles, may have taken 30. It was over way before. We're waiting to see if this will be the death push. 2 inhibitors down already.
Yep. Second Nexus turret is going to go down there, looking to get those extra kills. Viper does find Grace and the volley bear. In fact, Doran gets the Grace kill somehow as Marang survives on the fountain, but that is about all he's able to do. Griffin, okay, we hear you. You're real strong. Jin Air looking down the barrel now of a 0-18.
Seeming very likely, unfortunately. And as a pro player, that has to be a bitter pill to swallow. Marang looks a bit shell-shocked. They did draft a lot of losing lanes and an Olaf jungle as the enemy. MVP here is going to be an interesting one. I think there's multiple people you could consider. I think Doran had a really good game. I'm probably going to side with Tarzan because I think his Olaf was strong. But I think Lehends is probably in a big argument. He played those last couple of fights really, really well.
Also innovated the flash on the Yuumi situation as well. And
German Griffin fan here on the left, global fan, thank you for joining us, and the Korean fan.
You're from, I mean, generally we assume that our crowd is from Korea, but from Germany, that's exciting.
I like the Jurassic Park OG shirt as well.
Yeah.
Loving that in the audience. Griffin fans, they're already there for the VOD review. This one could probably be a speed VOD review because they definitely turned on the style in this game, and I love the draft. If you're going to be able to play like that, I don't think Griffin of week 2 of the LCK could play that draft particularly well.
Nope.
I think this Griffin is looking like it is definitely in their wheelhouse.
Yep, I think slumping Tarzan wouldn't have been able to navigate the Tarzan like the jungle like he was able to in this game. I think that is a large portion of what the evolution of Griffin has been. It's been Tarzan refinding himself here in the LCK and reaching back towards that dominance. I felt like the honeymoon stage showed us how incredible Tarzan could be, and then he sort of fell away. And now he's found himself once again, and that is a very scary prospect for teams looking to try and take Griffin down in the playoffs.
My opinion is that he had a lot more jobs to do this year, almost like busy work, than focus on his own play. If he focuses on his own play, damn, he's a good jungler.
Yep, and now he's got, 2 accounts in top 3 of solo queue once again. All the ducks are in order. We'll see whether they continue to be so as we move into game number 2. Jin Air, their LCK lives on the line when it comes to being able to win one damn match. That's all we want from you, Jin Air. We want you to be able to come back, but I just don't think it's going to be the case. Looks like history might be made as we move into game number 2. But we'll see how Griffin is going to do it this time, whether they're going to keep stylistically impressing us. We're going to go to a short break, guys. When we come back, game number 2.